Hello, everyone. It's Cam from Arsenal Theory Podcast, and we're going to be doing a look back on the Monday night game where Arsenal beat Palace 1-0 down to 10 men. And that actual evening, I did my first internet collaboration with Rashid from the Arsenal Perspective. Real great guy, knows a lot about Arsenal Football Club, very knowledgeable. And we did an hour kind of post match dissection on what went on, and there was a lot to discuss. But sometimes you might change your mind on things. Things kind of sit better in the brain after thinking about them for a couple of days. And there's a couple of extra things that I think it'd be interesting to kind of cover and get into a bit more detail on from the game, because there were quite a few incidents in there and a couple of players that I think I might have changed slightly my opinion on what I saw during the match. And the first one that I'm going to be first player I'm going to be discussing in that respect would be Martinelli. On that evening, on the collab that we did, which I will link to in the description, um, I felt that Martinelli was slightly off. I said he might be about sort of 5%, 5-10% off where he usually is. Didn't look quite the same. And actually, looking back at it and looking at the highlights and stuff, I actually think it's more than that. I think it's more than sort of 5-10%. I think he was quite a bit off the pace on that Monday. He seemed a bit out of sorts. He wasn't playing instinctively like he usually does. It was almost like he was being remote controlled. He had a great opportunity in the first few minutes of the match. Havertz puts him through, and he's kind of like checking in, checking back, and the old Martinelli would just hit it first time probably, or maybe one touch, bang and in. Trossard would have done that, and he just felt like he was a bit out of sorts. And I don't know if that is because he didn't have Zinchenko at fullback or Timber, so he had Tomiyasu, who's not going to overlap and not going to create any additional space for him, and we don't have as much control on that side of the pitch with Tomiyasu as we do with Zinchenko. And I think that was affecting Martinelli. And when he got subbed off, he really didn't look very happy. I'm not saying he was upset at the manager, but he knew that he was quite a bit below the standard that he's been setting himself, and that he's capable of as well. So I hope it's just a one-off. I hope it's not something that's more causing him a problem because of how we're tactically setting up. Um, but we'll see as the games go on. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out against Fulham and Trossard come in, because Trossard's really knocking on the door, and you can't really drop Saka. Don't think you can drop Eddie at the moment, and so maybe Martinelli could do with coming out, which sounds ridiculous because it's been one game. He had a great game against Forest, but he did kind of let himself down a bit, I think, in the Palace game. So the other player I wanted to discuss was a player that I had big reservations about before the start, which is Thomas Partey at right back. And really looking back on it, he was one of our best players on the night. He did have a couple of dodgy moments. There are times where he receives the ball and tries to do a return pass or a pass to relieve pressure really, really quickly. He won't kind of take a touch and look around. It'll come in and bang, it'll go back out. And a lot of the time it feels like that happens, it goes wrong. And then we end up inviting even more pressure on us. So when we went down to 10 men, I was very, very concerned. But actually, he had a calm head on him. And when we made the additional substitutions and he moved into midfield, it just really solidified things for us. And there's been rumours of him going to Saudi. He clearly looks like a major part of the team at the moment. I'm still not a great fan of him being at right back, but on the night, in the circumstances, I actually think that he was probably one of our best players, really. Um, so moving through obviously you had Declan Rice, who on the Monday evening I said Eddie was my man of the match, and I'm kind of flipping between Eddie and Declan. I think I would still stick with Eddie because he did create the goal. He did create the penalty that we scored the goal from. So ultimately, that's what got us the 3 points. So I would stick with Eddie on there, but Declan Rice is really pushing him there. What an incredible performance. In terms of Saka, I wouldn't change much about what I thought. It was a kind of solid game, but he didn't. It wasn't again. I feel up to his own personal standards that he's been setting. Like, I think Eddie lived up to the standard, although his finishing could have been better. But ultimately, we got away with it. And I think that's the overriding feeling from the game for me, is that even though we dug in and we were down to 10 men and we were conned by the refs, um, we did get away with it a bit, because to spend 30 minutes against Palace away from home down to 10 men is it's not a simple task. It's very difficult to do. And the way we did it, for 2/3 of that, we just invited the pressure on. And it was almost instant, actually. We just sat back and were just absorbing and absorbing and absorbing all the Palace kind of flows and moves. And it wasn't until Zinchenko and I think Jorginho came on that we started to regain some kind of passage and control in the game. And taking Eddie off, Havertz up front became a bit of a target man. Ramsdale was able to go long to him. He won a couple of fouls, kept possession quite well. So it all worked out in the end. However, I think you're not going to, 9 times out of 10 ain't going to work. And what gets you out of those situations is taking care of business early on. And we had so many early opportunities. We should have scored 2 or 3 goals in the first half and we had none. And I don't understand why we lack this killer instinct. I said it on the Monday, we like to play with our food. We like to mess around with it. And this is serious business. So you just hope that they can develop that real killer instinct and just get teams done. Go 2-0 up in the first 15 minutes and then just move on. You can relax a bit then, get the third. But, that's not how we roll. That's not how Arsenal do things. The other thing I wanted to discuss, which I didn't on the Monday, was the taking of the penalty. So I've never particularly been confident on Saka taking penalties. Maybe that's just a hangover from the Euros for me. And I care about him so much as a player. It sounds silly, but there's a part of me that's like, I almost don't want him to take the responsibility in case he misses it, because you just feel so bad for him. And I'm actually not convinced he's the best penalty taker in the club anyway. So it was nice to see Odegaard step up and really just take care of it. Didn't scuff it, hit the corners, bottom left-hand corner. Goalie went the wrong way, very straightforward, nicely done. And I hope Odegaard stays on penalty kicks, basically. Interestingly, Arteta said after the game he had no idea that was going to happen. Apparently the players just decided it for themselves, which I'm not sure how. I don't feel great about that, but I suppose you have to give players a certain amount of personal responsibility when it comes to these things. And Odegaard asked Saka. Saka was like, yeah, go for it. Which tells me in itself that Saka shouldn't be taking the penalties, because if he was 100% confident, he would have taken it, I think. So it would have been interesting to see Arteta's reaction if Odegaard had missed it. But luckily he didn't. So there we go. But what a great position to be in. We've got Saka who could take penalties, Havertz who's good at penalties, Jorginho who's good as well. Fabio Vieira's got like a golf club swing of a penalty. So we've got quite a few options available to us. So it's going to be a shorter video today. Just some interesting news breaking throughout the afternoon on Balogun. This deal seems to be just dragging on and dragging on. Apparently Fulham are coming back in for him, but then Monaco are after him, and then Chelsea are after him, but Arsenal are quoting a different price for Chelsea. Who knows what's going to happen? I think a lot of this is going to go down till the final day of the transfer window, and maybe even the last. We could be in a situation where people are trying to get faxes out, like the old days, to get deals over the line. I don't think we're going to do any more incomings. I just don't see it happening. Even with Timber's injury, I think they might just see if they can get through to the winter and then maybe make some moves. We've still got Kiwior as well, we haven't seen much of. He came on as well. So we do have some options there. I'd like us to do some more business, but I'm just not convinced we're in the financial position to do that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, 3 or 4 clubs circling around Balogun. Some Turkish clubs are interested in Rob Holding. We'll see. Apparently, Saudi are interested in Pepe. We're about to terminate his contract, but now we're not. So maybe we can get some money for him there if he is going to leave. That would be good. And there's a load of kids that kind of need to go out on loan, like Brooke Norton-Cuffy and a couple of others as well. So there's a lot for Arsenal to be doing in the last kind of week of the transfer window. And so we've got Fulham at the weekend, and I'll be doing a preview on that as we get closer to the game. And I'll hope to do a post-match reaction as well, live. So we'll see how I get on with setting up some streaming tools for doing that. But if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much.